Look closely. Do you see it? Right there. Hidden in the ironwork, carved into stone, standing tall in the skyline of America. Symbols of power, resistance, and a history many were never meant to discover. For centuries, America has told one version of its architectural story. But what if I told you that story is incomplete? The hands that built America carried more than just bricks. They carried knowledge, ancient knowledge, woven into the very foundations of this country. But whose knowledge? And what secrets did they leave behind? When you think of American architecture, you might picture grand plantation homes, towering government buildings, and iron-wrought balconies stretching across southern cities. But what's often left out is who built them. Many of the enslaved Africans brought to America weren't just laborers. They were skilled artisans, blacksmiths, stonemasons, master builders with a knowledge passed down for generations. Their architectural expertise, rooted in West Africa, became the foundation of America's most iconic structures. Long before the first European ships arrived on African shores, the continent was home to some of the most advanced architectural wonders the world had ever seen. The towering obelisks of Axum, the coral stone palaces of the Swahili coast, the geometric genius of Mali's mud brick mosques. These were not just structures, they were symbols, stories carved in stone, each carrying deep spiritual, cultural, and mathematical meaning. Carved into stone, woven into wood, and molded into the very foundations of this nation are symbols, not of European royalty, but of African legacy, symbols of strength, messages of resistance, echoes of a forgotten past. But their names, erased. Their contributions, forgotten. Their symbols, hidden. Yet still here, if you know where to look. At first glance, they seem like just designs. But for those who understand, they're messages. To understand how these symbols ended up in American architecture, we have to go back, way back, to a time long before European colonization. Across the vast lands of Africa, civilizations were thriving, building cities, monuments, and temples with engineering so advanced that even modern architects are left in awe. The great pyramids of Egypt and Nubia stood as marvels of sacred geometry, aligning perfectly with the stars. The great mosque of Djenné in Mali, built entirely from mud, still stands as the largest adobe structure in the world, blending form, function, and spiritual significance. In Ethiopia, the rock-hewn churches of Lalibela were literally carved from the earth, defying both time and gravity. These weren't just buildings, they were statements of identity, culture, and power, crafted by masons who understood mathematics, astronomy, and spiritual symbology like second nature. So, when enslaved Africans were brought to America, they didn't just bring their labor. They brought a wealth of knowledge, knowledge that found its way into the very structures of the New World. Then, there's the unmistakable influence of Egypt. Obelisks, like the Washington Monument, are direct echoes of African civilization, mirroring the sacred Tekhen pillars of ancient Kemet. But why was this design chosen for America's capital? Who decided to place a 555-foot-tall African symbol at the heart of Washington, D.C.? Let's start with the obelisk, one of the most mysterious structures in American architecture. The Washington Monument, the Bunker Hill Monument, the towering spire in New Orleans' Jackson Square. They stand as silent sentinels, watching over the nation's most powerful places. But these aren't just artistic choices. They are direct links to ancient African civilizations. This symbol, Sankofa, means return and get it. A powerful message from Ghana's Akan people, reminding us to learn from the past. But why is it hidden in the very fences of the American South? And then, there's the cosmogram, a sacred Congo symbol representing the cycle of life, death, and rebirth. found on graves, temples, and, shockingly, in the very architecture of America's legal system. Coincidence? Or proof that African influence is woven into places we were never meant to see? Now, let's talk about iron. The streets of Charleston, New Orleans, and Savannah are lined with some of the most intricate ironwork in America. But did you know much of it was crafted by African hands? Enslaved black artisans, trained in the ancient traditions of African metallurgy, forged more than just iron. They forged a secret language, one that could only be read by those who knew where to look. These weren't just decorations. Many believe they were protective symbols, spiritual codes meant to guard against evil. Some even say they were hidden messages for those seeking freedom, guiding them along the Underground Railroad. You've probably walked past them 1,000 times. Stunning iron gates, spiraling designs, delicate curls of metal. But did you know many of these patterns aren't just decoration? They're messages. Imagine it. Walking through the streets at night, seeing these patterns, silent, yet speaking volumes. A coded resistance, right under the eyes of those who sought to erase them. But they didn't just carve stone. They left messages. Some were warnings, some were prayers. Some were meant to disrupt the very system that enslaved them. Coincidence? Or a quiet act of resistance? Even today, the past refuses to be forgotten. Look closely and you'll find echoes of Africa in the skyscrapers of New York, the homes of the Deep South, and the government buildings of Washington, D.C. Take the Washington Monument. It's not just a tribute to the first U.S. president. It's an obelisk, a direct link to the towering Tekhen of ancient Egypt. A structure so powerful it was replicated across civilizations. But why did America choose this African form to honor its founding father? Even the city itself is designed using sacred African and Masonic principles. Coincidence? Or hidden knowledge carried forward? For centuries, these symbols were overlooked, ignored, and erased from history. But now, we have the power to reclaim them. To understand that our ancestors didn't just build this nation, they left messages for us to find. And the biggest question is, what else have they hidden? But here's the most powerful part. Black architects today are reclaiming that legacy, reviving those ancient symbols, weaving our history back into the skyline. Because the past isn't just behind us, it's in front of us, if we choose to see it. The question is, will you start seeing the signs? Now that you know the truth, will you see American architecture the same way again? If you found this eye-opening, share it. Let's spread the knowledge that history tried to bury, and make sure to subscribe, because there's so much more they don't want us to know.